My name is Ethan Mercer, and I'm 26 years old. I live alone in a basement apartment on the west side of Bridgeport, Connecticut, the kind of neighborhood where the streetlights flicker more than they shine, and the bodega on the corner knows your coffee order before you say it. The apartment used to belong to my uncle. He left it to me when he moved to Florida 3 years ago, right after I finished my apprenticeship, and realized I'd rather work with my hands than sit in an office pretending to care about spreadsheets. It's nothing special. Low ceilings that make you duck near the bathroom door, a window that faces the alley and lets in just enough light to call it legal, pipes that groan every time the upstairs neighbor runs the dishwasher. But it's mine, rent-controlled, passed down like a family secret no one else wanted. And that's more than most people my age can say. I make a living as an electrician. Residential mostly. Rewiring old houses where the knob and tube is a fire waiting to happen. Installing panels in new construction that smells like sawdust and ambition. Troubleshooting circuits for landlords who'd rather pay me $50 than call a licensed contractor. On slow days, I'll run cable for the guy who runs the audio shop on Fairfield Ave, or help my buddy Marco with side jobs that pay cash and don't ask questions. It's honest work. Keeps my hands busy and my mind from drifting back to the things I'd rather not replay. My mum lives in Arizona now with her sister. We talk on holidays, text when someone dies. She sends me pictures of sunsets like they're supposed to mean something. Dad's been gone since I was 14. Heart attack in the garage, socket wrench still in his hand. I found him. Sometimes I still smell motor oil when I'm falling asleep and jerk awake like I'm late for something I already missed. The only serious relationship I've had ended 2 years ago when my ex, Nicole, decided she needed someone with a plan. Not a 5-year plan, just any plan. She left a note on the kitchen table that said, "I can't keep waiting for you to want more." I didn't argue. She wasn't wrong. I still have the note in a drawer somewhere, next to a stack of old pay stubs and a photo of us at Coney Island that I can't bring myself to throw away. Most nights I come home, heat up whatever's in the fridge, and fall asleep to the sound of the upstairs TV bleeding through the ceiling. The apartment feels smaller when it's empty, but I've stopped noticing. The quiet has a shape now. I know where it sits. It's predictable. Safe. That all changed on a Friday in early November, when the first snow of the season came down sideways and the city forgot how to drive. I was on my 3rd beer and an old episode of Breaking Bad when my phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but the caller ID said Harborview Residences, Unit 24A. I knew the building. New construction down by the water, the kind of place where the lobby has a doorman and the elevators play jazz, the kind of place where people pay more for a parking spot than I make in a month. I picked up. "Hello. Hi, this is Vivian Chen from 24A. I have a power outage in half my apartment. The building super isn't answering. Can you come tonight?" Her voice was calm, controlled, like someone reading from a script she'd written herself and edited twice. I glanced at the clock. 10:23 p.m. Outside, the snow was piling up on the fire escape, fat flakes catching the light from the bodega sign across the alley. Normally, I'd say call tomorrow, but there was something underneath the control, a tightness, like the calm was costing her something. "Give me 20 minutes," I said. I grabbed my bag, threw on a jacket, and drove through streets that hadn't been plowed yet. The snow was coming down harder now, turning the city into something softer, quieter, almost unfamiliar. Harborview Residences rose up at the end of the block, all glass and steel, glowing against the white sky like it didn't belong to the same zip code as my basement apartment. The doorman waved me through without a word. I guess a guy with a tool bag and wet boots doesn't look like much of a security risk. The elevator ride to the 24th floor was silent, except for the hum of the motor and the soft jazz leaking from the speakers. When the doors slid open, I stepped into a hallway that smelled like fresh paint and money. Unit 24A was at the end, the door already cracked open. I knocked once. "Electrician, come in." Vivian Chen stood in the foyer, arms crossed, still in the charcoal blazer she'd probably worn to whatever meeting had wrecked her day. Her hair was pulled back in a low ponytail, a few strands escaping like they'd lost the will to stay in place. She was shorter than I expected, maybe 5'4" in the heels she hadn't taken off. And even exhausted, she carried herself like someone who'd never had to repeat herself. Except tonight. "It's the west side of the apartment," she said, turning without waiting for me to introduce myself. "Living room, bedroom, bathroom. The east side is fine." I followed her into the living room. The apartment was massive. Open plan, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the harbour that probably cost more than my uncle's pension. But it was empty in a way that went beyond furniture. No photos on the walls, no books on the shelves, no throw blankets or plants or any of the small messes people leave when they actually live somewhere. Just a single grey sectional, a glass coffee table, and a half-empty bottle of wine breathing beside a single glass. The panel was in a closet off the hallway. I found it in 30 seconds. Tripped breaker. I reset it, checked the connections, tested the outlets in the living room. Everything came back on. Easy fix. 5 minutes, tops. But she'd called me out in a snowstorm at 10 o'clock at night for a tripped breaker she could have flipped herself. I didn't say that. I just packed up my tools and wiped my hands on my jeans. All set. Should hold. If it trips again, you might have a short somewhere, but I'd need to trace it during the day. She looked up from her phone, eyes red-rimmed but dry. "Thank you. I'll Venmo you." "No rush." I glanced around again. Couldn't help it. The place looked like a showroom, like someone had moved in but never unpacked. "Nice place," I said. "Must be quiet up here." "Too quiet," she said. So softly I almost missed it. I should have left then. Grabbed my bag, nodded, disappeared into the elevator. But something about the way she said it, the way the words hung in the air like they'd been waiting years to be spoken, made me stay a beat too long. "You live alone?" I asked. She gave a short, humorless laugh. "As of last week, yes." The snow was falling harder now, streaking past the windows like static. I don't know why I said it. Maybe it was the wine on her breath, or the way the apartment felt like a museum no one visited. Or maybe I was just tired of my own quiet rooms. But the words came out before I could stop them. "Well, if it ever gets too big up here, you could always crash at my place. It's a basement, the ceiling leaks when it rains, and my upstairs neighbor watches TV until 2 in the morning. But at least someone talks back." I meant it as a joke, a dumb, throwaway line to cut the tension. I even laughed, awkward and too loud in the sterile space. She didn't laugh. She just looked at me with something I couldn't read. Then she nodded once, like she was filing it away somewhere. I handed her my card, told her to call if the breaker tripped again, and left. The elevator ride down felt longer than the ride up. By the time I got home, soaked and shivering, I'd already forgotten the conversation. Or tried to. The next morning, I woke to the sound of knocking. It was 7:12 a.m. The snow had stopped, but the sky was still grey, light leaking through the blinds like it didn't want to commit. I stumbled to the door in sweats and an old hoodie, expecting my neighbor with a noise complaint or maybe the super with a leak update. Instead, Vivian Chen stood on my doorstep, snow dusting her shoulders, a small black suitcase at her feet. Her hair was down now, damp at the ends from the cold. She wore jeans and a cream-colored coat that had probably never seen a subway. Her eyes were wide, determined, and just a little terrified. "Your offer," she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Does it still stand? Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.